Your organization may outsource a service, but can it outsource the risk? Today, we're testing what you really know about third-party risk oversight. Suppliers, technology providers, consultants, cloud platforms, payment processors, and the hidden companies operating behind them. All right, let's see how sharp you really are. 10 questions, no hints, no second chances. I'll give you the statement. You decide, fact or fiction. Think fast, trust your instincts. And keep score, because this one gets tricky. Ready? Let's test your knowledge. Question 1. Here's your first statement. Once an organization outsources an activity to a third party, responsibility for the risks associated with that activity transfers to the service provider. The answer is fiction. This sounds logical, but it is dangerously inaccurate. An organization can outsource an activity, but it generally cannot outsource its ultimate accountability. If a third party mishandles customer information, disrupts a critical service, violates a regulatory requirement, or causes financial loss, the organization that hired that provider may still face the consequences. Customers, regulators, investors, and business partners are unlikely to accept the vendor did it as a complete explanation. The third party may have contractual responsibilities and may be required to compensate the organization for certain losses, but contractual liability does not erase the organization's own responsibility to select, assess, monitor, and govern that provider. This is why effective third-party oversight is not simply a procurement exercise. It is an ongoing governance responsibility. Question 2. Next statement. Third-party risk oversight should begin before a contract is signed. The answer is fact. Effective oversight begins while the organization is still deciding whether to enter the relationship. This is the stage when the organization has the greatest freedom to investigate the provider, compare alternatives, negotiate protections, and walk away if the risk is unacceptable. Pre-contract due diligence may examine the provider's financial condition, cybersecurity controls, data protection practices, regulatory history, operational resilience, ownership structure, insurance coverage, reputation, and reliance on subcontractors. The depth of that review should reflect the importance and risk of the proposed service. Waiting until after the contract is signed creates a serious disadvantage. At that point, the provider may already have access to systems, data, customers, or critical processes, and correcting weaknesses may become slower, more expensive, and more difficult. The strongest oversight begins before commitment, not after a problem appears. Question 3, let's continue. Every third party should undergo exactly the same level of due diligence and monitoring. The answer is fiction. Consistency is important, but identical treatment is not always effective risk management. A company supplying office furniture does not normally present the same risk as a cloud provider storing sensitive customer records. Third parties should be classified according to factors such as the criticality of the service, the sensitivity of the information involved, system access, customer impact, transaction volume, geographic exposure, replaceability, and potential regulatory consequences. A low-risk provider may require a basic review. A critical provider may require detailed due diligence, security testing, financial analysis, contractual protections, frequent monitoring, independent assurance reports, incident notification requirements, and a documented exit strategy. This is called a risk-based approach. Without risk classification, organizations may waste resources examining minor suppliers while failing to apply enough scrutiny to the providers capable of causing the greatest damage. Question 4. Pay attention to this one. A well-written contract is enough to control the risks created by a third-party relationship. The answer is fiction. A strong contract is essential, but a contract cannot monitor itself. Contracts may establish security requirements, confidentiality duties, service levels, audit rights, notification deadlines, data return obligations, business continuity expectations, and termination rights. But those clauses only create value when the organization verifies whether the provider is actually meeting them. A contract may require an incident to be reported within 24 hours. Oversight determines whether the provider has a reliable process capable of doing that. A contract may require annual security testing. Oversight confirms whether the testing occurred, what it found, and whether serious weaknesses were corrected. Contracts establish expectations. Monitoring tests reality. Organizations need both. Question 5. We're halfway there. A third-party risk assessment performed during onboarding remains reliable for the entire relationship unless the provider reports a major incident. The answer is fiction. A third party can change dramatically after onboarding. It may suffer financial decline, introduce new technology, move operations to another country, change ownership, replace key personnel, experience a cyber attack, use new subcontractors, or expand the service beyond its original scope. The organization's own reliance on the provider may also increase. A supplier that began with a small administrative task may eventually support a critical business process or gain access to far more sensitive information. That means third-party risk must be monitored throughout the relationship. Monitoring may include periodic reassessments, performance reviews, financial indicators, security findings, regulatory developments, unresolved issues, adverse media, complaint trends, service disruptions, and significant organizational changes. Due diligence is not a one-time photograph. Effective oversight is a continuing film. Question 6. Let's raise the difficulty. If a critical provider has strong security certifications and independent audit reports, the organization can rely on those documents instead of conducting its own risk evaluation. The answer is fiction. Certifications and independent assurance reports can provide valuable evidence, but they are not substitutes for judgment. A report may cover only certain systems, locations, controls, or periods. It may exclude the specific service the organization uses. It may identify exceptions that require further investigation. And even a clean report does not automatically answer whether the provider's controls are appropriate for the organization's particular data, regulatory duties, risk appetite, or business dependency. Oversight teams should examine the scope, date, limitations, testing methods, identified exceptions, and management responses contained in the evidence. They must then determine whether any remaining risk is acceptable. A certificate tells you that something was assessed. It does not automatically tell you that your organization is protected. Question 7. This one catches people off guard. An organization only needs to oversee the company with which it signed the contract, not that company's subcontractors or technology providers. The answer is fiction. Your third party may depend on additional companies to deliver its service. These subcontractors are sometimes described as fourth parties or even nth parties when the chain becomes more complex. A cloud application may rely on a hosting provider, payment processor, customer support company, data analytics service, and external development team. Your organization may never sign a contract with those companies, but their failures can still affect your data, operations, customers, and reputation. Effective oversight should therefore examine whether critical providers use subcontractors, what activities those subcontractors perform, where data is processed, how changes are communicated, and how the primary provider monitors its own supply chain. The contract should also address when approval or notification is required before important subcontractors are added or replaced. The risk does not disappear simply because it sits one step further away. Question 8. Stay focused. Using several different third parties always reduces operational risk because the organization is no longer dependent on a single provider. The answer is fiction. Multiple providers can reduce dependency, but only if they are genuinely independent. 3 different applications may all rely on the same cloud infrastructure, telecommunications network, payment processor, geographic region, or fourth-party provider. If that shared dependency fails, all 3 services may become unavailable at the same time. This is known as concentration risk. Concentration can exist within one organization, across a corporate group, throughout an industry, or within a particular region or technology. Organizations should therefore look beyond the number of providers and identify the critical dependencies beneath them. True resilience requires more than multiple company names on a vendor list. It requires understanding whether those companies could fail together. Question 9. Almost there. If a third party consistently meets its service level targets, that is strong evidence that its overall risk is being managed effectively. The answer is fiction. Service level performance is only one part of the picture. A provider may deliver every service on time while still having weak cybersecurity, deteriorating finances, poor employee screening practices, unresolved audit findings, excessive subcontractor dependency, or inadequate disaster recovery capabilities. Traditional performance indicators tell the organization whether the service is being delivered. Risk indicators help reveal whether the provider may be approaching failure, disruption, misconduct, or non-compliance. Strong oversight uses both. It also pays attention to near misses, recurring complaints, delayed remediation, control exceptions, staffing instability, data incidents, and changes in the provider's operating environment. A green performance dashboard can create false confidence when it measures only what is easiest to see. The absence of missed targets is not the same as the absence of risk. Question 10. This is the final question, and it's the one that surprises most people. A third-party risk program is successful when it prevents every third-party failure from affecting the organization. The answer is fiction. No oversight program can guarantee that every third-party failure will be prevented. Providers operate in changing environments. Cyber attacks happen, businesses fail, employees make mistakes, technology breaks, and unexpected events can overwhelm even well-designed controls. The true strength of third-party risk oversight is not measured only by whether incidents occur. It is measured by whether the organization understands its dependencies, identifies warning signs, makes informed decisions, responds quickly, protects affected stakeholders, and recovers without losing control. A mature program prepares for failure as well as prevention. That includes documented contingency plans, tested business continuity arrangements, alternative providers, access revocation procedures, secure data return or destruction, communication plans, and clearly assigned decision-making authority. Boards and senior leaders should receive meaningful information about critical providers, major exposures, overdue issues, accepted risks, concentration concerns, and the organization's readiness to respond. The deepest lesson is this: third-party oversight is not about creating the illusion that nothing will ever go wrong. It is about ensuring that when something does go wrong, the organization is not surprised, unprepared, or unable to act. All right, how did you do? Drop your score in the comments, and be honest. 8 or more? You understand third-party risk better than most people. 10 out of 10? You may already be thinking like a risk governance professional. Less than 8? Now you know something many organizations discover only after a serious incident. You can outsource the activity, but you cannot outsource the need for oversight. Hit like, subscribe to Governancepedia, and share this challenge with someone who works with suppliers, vendors, technology providers, or outsourced services. Because the greatest risk may not sit inside your organization. It may sit inside a company you depend on, or inside a company they depend on. Come back for the next challenge, because knowing more is how you stay ahead.